Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. Today or tonight, depending on where you are, our guest is one of my oldest, although he doesn't look it, friends, Kid Congo Powers, who I met when he was just a wee chap of 16 and somehow showed up at my door on Delancey Street and weaseled his way into my life for a good 6 or more months. He's done many things since then. I would say I'm a great inspiration to him, but then again, he's a great inspiration to me, too. Kid Congo Powers,
Very nice.
welcome.
Very nice.
Wow, Lydia. I'm glad to be here all these years later.
I mean, let's go to the begin. Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
How the hey did you show up at my front door on Delancey Street?
Well,
In what year? 76, 77?
77. Yeah, because Bradley Field had come out to L.A. with Christian Hoffman and the Mumps, who were recording in L.A. for an extended period, and I befriended them. And Bradley said, well, you got to come to New York, and you can stay at my place, and, you know, and probably never expecting I'd show up.
I think you did just. This was way before cell phones.
Yes.
And
Yes.
email. I think you did just kind of show up. Did
I
you
think
not?
so. But
Did
Bradley,
you just show up and knock on the door?
I think, yeah, maybe Bradley might have escorted us in the door.
And it was you and Pleasant Gayman. We hope to pod her soon.
Yes.
All right.
And,
so
and,
what
and,
you?
and a few other kids. I don't know if they stayed with you. But
No.
No.
But were you in Pleasant at that time working on this fanzine? Were you part
Yeah,
of
we
that?
had the fanzine called Lobotomy, which was actually more her fanzine than me. I was a journalist of her fanzine.
So
Weren't you also the, I was reading the head of the fan club of the Ramones? at
Yes.
the
well,
same
but
time?
That was
that's later.
before.
But let's
That was
go. I
before.
want to
That
go
was
back
before.
to the earliest days. So you were like 16, I think.
It's probably 16, maybe 17.
Same as me. What were you expecting and what did you get?
I didn't know what to expect exactly, you know, with New York or with you.
Both. I mean, how did you even know about me, by the way?
I knew of you through, I knew of Teenage Jesus. I heard of you because
You were in L.A.
I was in LA, and there was one time Fast Freddy from Backdoor Man had come to New York and made a phone call to Rodney Bingenheimer's radio station. And he just threw you on. He's saying there's all this happening stuff in New York at CBGB's, and you gotta meet this Lydia Lunch. Teenage Jesus and the Jerks are the greatest band.
Now, go back to Rodney Bingenheimer for a minute.
Yeah.
Were you frequenting his Hollywood club when you were?
Yes, I was when
from
I was
the-
15 and 16.
The Notorious, yes.
Which must have been fantastic because this was in the day of glam and groupies.
Yes.
And youngsters getting in everywhere.
Yeah, there was a lot of really young youngsters
And
there.
it was the rule over 21 kind of not allowed unless you're a rock star?
Oh,
No.
there was no.
It was under 21
it
is
was
allowed.
Yeah,
No,
well,
I'm saying that's who's allowed. No, over, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, but you know, there was. I think there was an age limit.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Couldn't be too old.
I met all these kids
Right.
who were in the back alley drinking. You know, before.
Yeah.
And then after a certain point, the bouncers just decided to let anyone in.
Which was the same as New York. It's like we
Yeah.
cannot still understand how, as underage, impoverished kids, we got into all these
yeah,
clubs.
and we're drinking at a bar.
And hanging out or being
And-
groupies.
And being groupies.
So
yeah.
who did you see hanging out at Rodney Bingenheimer's as a
I
15-year-old?
I saw.
Or who was the scene there?
Well, Kim Fowley, of course.
Yes.
That predator. That predator who like ripped the Runaways off from Here to Kingdom
Yes.
Come. Who wrote Ollie
Depends on
Oop.
who you're talking to. But,
Ollie
Yeah.
Oop. He did write Ollie Oop.
Yes, he
That's
did.
his big claim to fame.
Yeah,
Good.
you know.
Who else was there?
You know, just like a lot of weird, like teeny bopper stars, like
Who then
Sean
became-
Cassidy, Leif
funny. I did
Garrett.
not know that. Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of the.
I thought it was more of a freak show, but I guess they're freaks too.
There was a lot of freaks, and there.
Well,
it
I mean,
was-
Hollywood kids were freaks.
They were, yeah, and they were all out there, and they all
And also-
were getting into their parents' drug bins and
Quaaludes.
Quaaludes, the
So
second.
this is like
Tylenol,
75,
Tylenol.
maybe. 75, 75,
Escatrol.
75, maybe.
75, 70, 76, yeah.
So,
75,
and
70.
also, I mean, budding future so-called rockers.
Yes, you know.
Like
I
the
saw
Runaways,
the
like Joan
Runaways,
Jett,
Joan Jett
like
was
the Go-Go's.
there. Yes, and Pleasant Gaiman, and a lot of kids, Darby Crash.
Of the Germs?
Yeah. There was a lot of kids that came from there.
What was like the
And
wildest?
there was like a lot of kids like who were into music wildly and wanting to dress up. A lot of gay kids.
What was
that
your
were still
costume at the time?
Oh, I had a white satin, kind of tunic. Top, little Mao, Chairman Mao.
Homemade or
Homemade? Yes,
cool.
I made.
Did you make it or
I
Mom?
made my own. My own. I wasn't going to ask my mom to make it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But you were living away from home at a very early age as well.
No, I was still living at home.
Where?
Well, I was always lying about going out and staying out all night and going to the local drag queen all night coffee shop and hanging out and.
Where were you living with your parents?
In La Puente, California.
So that's not that close to LA, is it?
It's a good half hour, so I would take the bus into
what
Hollywood.
teenagers
with a
did.
satin outfit, or would you change?
I would maybe I'd throw a trench coat over it.
Okay.
Good idea.
Yes, and
So-
cover up and get there safely, disrobe and
Show your finery
Show
off.
your finery, yeah. As a
What was
child should.
one of the wildest things you saw or experienced at Rodney Bingenheimer's disco?
Iggy Pop playing,
Right. Oh.
and cutting himself to ribbons.
Amazing.
And I remember one night, and that it might have been the same night, and he was outside and he was wearing a dress and he kept lifting it over his head with no underwear. And Rodney was crying because he thought that he was going to get arrested and then busted. And
Was this around the same time Pleasant Gaiman, who was about 13, 14, or 15, was dating Iggy Pop?
It's quite possible. I didn't
Well,
know
we'll
Pleasant
get
then. I didn't
we'll
meet
get
her till
back
the
to her
punk. Yeah.
at another podcast. So anyway, you come to New York because you already had music in your blood.
Yes, always.
But you're 16, 17. What are you going to do? So you come to New York, and what happens?
I came to see what was going on,
Knocked on my door.
I could not bear to be left out of what I was reading.
But I
in
mean, things were
magazines.
going on in L.A. as well, but
But
maybe
not-
a little later.
A little later, and it was, there was Backdoor Man. There was like this kind of Detroit rock, this hard rock.
There wasn't no wave.
it was
L.A.
kind of
is
like-
not known for no wave.
There was no wave.
There was punk that followed,
There was punk. There was the Screamers,
which were pre-punk.
were pre-punk, and who actually Tomato to Planet came from New York too.
Right, okay.
So did you have this kind of romantic view of what New York was in your mind before you
Yes,
actually came
yeah,
in?
from films,
and that's what I was
from
asking.
movies,
You
yeah.
were the head of the fanzine for
The
Ramones,
Ramones.
and Jeffrey Pierce was
Jeffrey Lee Pierce, but
with
that
Blondie.
with Blondie, and it's
Yeah.
like interesting these L.A. characters fantasizing about what New York is in their mind.
Yeah, doesn't everybody?
they did it. They did then. But I mean,
But you
Doesn't
they-
every kid?
but was that before you got to New York? That
What,
you were the
I was-
fan club of the
Oh
Ramones?
yeah. I was younger. I was like 15 when I did that.
So you come to New York because the Ramones are there.
The
Teenage
Ramones,
Jesus, Patti Smith,
yeah,
blah blah.
and I found Teenage Jesus. I found the Cramps.
And you know what's
I
so
found
amazing?
Well, actually, the
Contortions.
Cramps found you.
Well, they did find me.
But kid, what's so amazing, and for the younger listeners, of course, we all know this, how easy it is to find the whole world now. And what this says to me, just all the vast bit of knowledge that you gathered at that age.
No cell phone, no internet.
On your own is tremendous. And that amount of effort, of course, passion and interest is what drove
Okay,
it.
so look, let's go back to basics. You land at my apartment. What happens?
You let me in.
Nice.
Teenage Jesus is rehearsing.
As well as the Contortions,
and-
Mars, and many other people
yeah,
at my
and
loft on
Beirut
Delancey that there was nothing on Delancey Street at that time.
No, and this is what I'm trying to figure out. Did you live above a cinema?
We did above a Spanish cinema, and
And
there
what
was
was the corner?
it was like below Rivington. I don't remember, but there was the cinema and one Cuban restaurant up near
Yeah.
Christie, and that was it.
Yeah,
There was nothing.
was that the restaurant Fried Chicken?
It's where we would always eat
That was
the
the
rice.
name of it,
Yes.
fried chicken.
Yes.
But so somehow I allowed you to stay with me for like months. I
Yeah,
think.
why did you do that?
I don't know. I think we were both really grumpy, but not with each other.
Yes, I think that we found a mutual respect
Yeah,
in
in our
grumpiness and keeping to ourselves.
think of you as the least crabby person I know.
Yeah.
And like myself, I can be crabby, but I'm pretty up.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
we're both,
very. I think we recognize that in
we're
each
both
other.
up, but we are happy haters.
Yes, exactly. I think that we had a mutual sense of humor
Because I
about
don't
it.
remember us speaking that much, but we spent a lot of time together.
Yes.
And you saw a lot of those rehearsals of Teenage Jesus, the Contortions, maybe Mars even, and Beirut
At
Slump.
Beirut Slump.
My most underrated and underheard
I will
band,
say
horrorcore.
so.
And it was before you, but you saw that if I could play the guitar, so could you.
Yes, I don't know if you remember this, but one
I
time we
don't.
were at the rehearsal space and you said, I want to play drums. And you said, you play the guitar.
I've always wanted to play drums.
And I said, I don't know how to play guitar. And you said, just pretend you're playing I Want to Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day.
Oh, okay.
And so I
Going
did
back
that, and then I played the guitar. And it sounded exactly like it.
I bet.
It sounded better. It sounded better. I'm sure.
In my mind.
it
I think it probably sounded
did
better.
Not.
I think it's probably
so.
sounded better.
Anyway, you after just stumbling into a doorway on Delancey Street into my apartment and seeing what was going on there, and it was very no wave. Then, when was the first time that, for instance, the Cramps had asked me to be their drummer? And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm starting my own band. And so I asked them to look up Miriam Linna,
Yeah.
who had come from Cleveland with Bradley Field, the drummer, the fourth drummer of Teenage Jesus.
Yeah.
And so was the Cramps your first foray into music then?
No, the Gun Club started
The
before.
Gun Club started. So you went back to LA.
I went back to LA after seeing the Cramps and No Wave and everything, and we started the Gun Club, kind of very influenced by what I had seen in New York, and also Jeffrey had been in New York and seen.
But
the
I mean,
same.
even though the Gun Club was more blues and rock based, they
Yeah.
weren't really no wave. But there was some spirit of them that was a bit outlandish, and it probably
it was
Jeffrey's
it was
insanity.
The performance.
Well, Jeffrey's insanity, and also the fact that kind of the intention was to not be snobby about roots music and to be new, and like what we saw with like the Contortions and the Cramp was they were obviously they loved older music and were reverent toward it, but also they were
Taking it somewhere else.
They were taking it, they were destroying it,
Right.
and making their own voice out of it.
What's interesting about the gun, your joining the Gun Club, and I'm just going to go full circle on this. Is what's so interesting is, and so you joined the Gun Club in what year was this? Early.
77? 79.
Okay, so we're going to just fast forward for a minute because what again brought us together, not that we've ever been that far apart, but that Cypress Grove, who I've worked with,
Yes.
who did the last tour with Jeffrey Lee Pierce before he died, which was, Jeffrey was a disaster at that point.
Yeah.
But Cypress Grove found this cassette, just marked JLP, of unreleased songs. And that's how I came to work with Cypress Grove. And from that, he's done 4 tribute albums that
Yeah.
involve Mark Lanigan, Nick Cave, Hugo Race, yourself, myself, Debbie Harry. And that's how I came to work with Cypress Grove, from a lost cassette of unreleased songs of Jeffrey Lee Pierce. And again, this is how the circles of our lives form.
Always, yeah.
It really is.
It is always. I always say I don't pick people because of how they play. I pick people who they are to be in.
So you come into the Gun Club everybody was kind of, you didn't have to be an expert in anything. You had to have the spirit and will to do
Yes.
something. But still, you're playing more roots-based music. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
what I
another
learned.
thing if you're doing no wave, which has no tradition. It's based on non-tradition.
that's
You still have to be precise, but in my opinion. But Gun Club, you're doing roots music. So did that take a lot of rehearsing and how did you actually even come to perfect your style is what I'm asking.
It just happened.
Rehearse?
Rehearsing a lot, yeah. And
Because you saw Teenage Jesus would rehearse every day.
Yes, yeah. No, there was a lot of work went into it.
Yeah.
And a lot of, dedication and a very focused.
Did Jeffrey know how to
very-
play the guitar?
Jeffrey knew how to play guitar.
Okay, who else
he
was in the
but he
band
didn't-
originally?
And well, the very, very first, there was a version of the Gun Club called the Creeping Ritual. That was with Brad Dunning, who was a non-drummer, and Don Snowden, who was a music journalist, and he played the bass. And we thought, he really knows how to play. I met him years later. He lives in Spain and Valencia. He's like, I had no idea how to play. That's
funny.
Nobody did.
But
So
he
when I-
was the most.
So when I see old YouTube performances of the Gun Club, there's so much in the performance and how it's presented and how it's showcased. So you're practicing the music. Did that other performance, fashion, showcasing, was that just natural and just everyone went on their own way? Or did you guys actually calculate and conceive of things when you decided to?
I think it went on its own way.
Yeah, that's what I got. That's the impression I got.
Jeffrey's character was really strong.
I mean, you guys were personalities, kind of extroverted in the way you showcase yourselves. So that was natural. So the music, you had to rehearse all the time.
How long did the gun club or your participation in the gun club go on? And who were some of the other members? That
Okay,
came in?
and then after that first version, when we turned into the gun club, we got in a rhythm section from the band The Bags, Alice Bags
Right.
band, and who had split up. And so it was a Terry Graham and Rob Ritter, so drums and bass, and that changed the whole dynamic.
Because
of
they
it.
were more practiced.
They were more
rehearsed?
practiced,
Okay.
and they were a team.
So that allows you and Jeffrey to be freer as well.
Much freer, yeah.
So what albums did you release under that situation?
Well, there was none because then the Cramps came and poached me.
poached
so
you. In L.A.?
In LA, the Cramps, Brian Gregory left, then Lux and
By the
Ivy
way,
moved
let's
in.
talk about Brian Gregory for a minute.
Oh yeah, I can.
Brian
talk about
Gregory was, I think, the original guitar player for the Cramps.
Yeah.
And that's when I first saw the Cramps very early on, 76 or 77, when they came to New York, and Brian Gregory was in the band, who had a fetish for women 60 or older.
Yes.
And I don't mean 60 like I'm 60. I mean women with tinted blue hair and beehives wearing twin
Yes.
sets. And when I once asked him why he liked these women, he said, it's their flesh. He also left Bradley Field's loft on Grand Street with bugs in the bed, but whatever.
Oh yeah, yes.
Brian Gregory was a pretty unique creature. So Brian Gregory was in the band, and then the Cramps saw you.
Yes.
See, they wanted me. They didn't get me. Then they came for you.
They poached you, but they poached you, as far as I know, and I read from the Chris Campion book, during a period where you're in these lawsuits with Miles Copeland III, right? And
yeah.
So you came in and he loved the Cramps. He was like, I love them, but you guys were kind of like, we don't really love you, man.
Yeah, that was Lux and Ivy's. That was their trip. I was, out. I was around for it all.
Right. But you couldn't make new material because of this.
Yes, yeah.
And that was very frustrating. I can
So
imagine.
we did make the Psychedelic Jungle record.
So which albums with the Cramps were you on?
Psychedelic Jungle and The Smell of Female.
And some people consider that their best
pinnacle.
albums.
Nice, yeah.
How was it working with Lux and Ivy? Because Lux and Ivy, I mean, I met them very early on, and I was always chasing Lux around in a red see-through raincoat that I'd rub up against him when he was wet. Ivy, they were very kind to me.
Yeah.
How was it working with them? Because they were a very tight unit. So would they just basically do everything and then bring you in? Like, these are the songs we're going to do. Did you have much participation other than playing the guitar?
The participation was that they left a little window for, because they knew my limitations and style.
And your unique style.
Very unique style. That was, and they wanted it to they did want it to continue in the Brian Gregory kind of way that was, a more offbeat,
Right, yeah.
or else they would just be a rockabilly band.
Right, because their music
of
was so
course.
rockabilly.
Yeah.
And so garage at first.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I saw them, it was much more garage rock, much more 60s garage than
Early,
rockabilly, which
Hurricane Fighter playing,
Oh, wow.
13-4 elevators.
don't eat stuff off the sidewalk.
Yes.
Which I always am amazed with, because it shows how little people actually focus on the music, is that there's only a handful of templates, especially with rock and roll, and yet the performance, the fashion, the characters are really what define it. I mean, it's like a punk band that's basically playing heavy metal, or a punk band because they look punk, and the other way around,
This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. And tonight our special guest, Orchard Day, depends on where you are, could be in Burma, is Kid Congo Powers.
So I want to ask something directed to the two of you. So, you have these parallel trajectories and universes that just kind of keep on resurfacing, keep on revisiting the whole thing. Maybe you have a certain connection with your personal energies, because coming back from Europe, it seems like all of America's freaking out now about just everything, and the two of you seem pretty calm, actually, considering how everyone is losing their fucking shit.
I think it's due to our positive, which is bizarre for people. They don't
understand this.
Anybody that knows me knows I'm extremely positive, in spite of the fact that I focus in my art on the negative because nobody knows how to articulate it like I do.
Yes, and I am very positive. I work with humor a lot. You know, I work with flamboyance. I work with light. You know, and I'm about dispelling that. It actually comes from, like, I was a massage therapist, and my
and I'm a great subject of your masseuse scene.
Yes, but I'm
often give people
all
massages.
about not taking it in. I'm about putting it out and dispelling it.
I totally can relate. And from an outside perspective, on the two of you,
I've always been.
I wonder if it seems like at such young ages, 13, 14, 15, you both were like, you know what? All this is a bunch of bullshit.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna invent myself, and I'm not gonna latch onto these institutions that are ultimately gonna fuck me over. And where most people are taking the Kool-Aid, you got to take debt for college, you got to get the corporate job, and they're screwed.
I think we both knew.
We knew that already.
You knew- well, yeah.
we wouldn't have been where we were.
I think what really did help us is your time at Rodney Bingenheimer's disco. And the thing is, I read somewhere also, like the New York Dolls were very important to me. That's why I ran away at 13. Because this really set a new standard for what men did not have to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, I mean, the music, although it was very rock and roll, it was still weird somehow.
And women, of course. I mean, what men did not have to be, and women, of course. I mean,
the thing is, look, if we go back to 73, what women were then, I mean, this was the beauty of it. If you remember, and I know you do because it came out of L.A., Star Magazine.
Star Magazine.
Because it actually illustrated and what else would the word be? Like Sable Star and all the 13 and 14-year-old groupies. Because groupies at that point, there was a very different perspective on what a groupie was. A groupie was somebody that liked the music and could facilitate a good time for the band. And they were not disrespected at all. They were actually elevated.
They were not disrespected, and they were not victims.
No,
all that stuff.
And victims of
and they
older
were
men.
very young, but they were actually the predators.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
They picked
So
who
it
they
was,
were going to go with.
Oh, they did, and they didn't go with anybody they did not want to. But so Star Magazine, which was kind of a Bible for me in upstate New York, and there was only, I think, 6 issues, but came out of L.A. and was really about the groupie lifestyle. Now, I never considered myself a groupie, quote unquote, but from the age of 13 to 15, I was backstage at every major concert and minor concert in Rochester, New York, because I knew that was what I was going to do, was make music.
Yeah, well, the same thing. I wouldn't even know I was going to make music, but I knew I wanted that. Putting myself near music was going to put me into music. What form, I didn't know.
Right.
But,
So, all right. So, I mean, so we went from the gun club to the Cramps. And then when did you decide that, like, okay, now it's time to do my own thing? How long were you with the Cramps, first of all?
80 to 83.
And let's just touch one more time on a minute for that,
Okay,
because
yeah.
they were really they were a very united unit, Lux and Ivy, and they were really quite away from everybody else. I mean, they lived in their own reality, and they didn't really socialize at all, except for, and Lux was an extreme exhibitionist on stage, but in person, quiet, shy, and kind.
Yeah.
And a vegan. I mean, I think they were like early vegans or vegetarians.
Yeah, vegans.
Didn't drink, maybe did
Were
acid.
cosmic and
And
meditation.
Lux was an
yeah.
incredible graphic artist, because I saw
Yeah,
some of the
visual
images he
artist.
drew
Yeah.
from when he was in college. So what was it like working with them? Because they were such a closed unit.
Well, they were workers. You know, that's the thing, is that was their work was everything.
Right.
And the
And their
music
private
was
life
everything.
nobody knew about.
And I think that they picked me, and because I had been playing guitar for 1 year when I joined the Cramps.
Wow.
You know.
Well,
and
I mean, what did they need?
but
They needed something out to go with their rockabilly.
Yes.
Well, not really.
And I was
normal.
already playing an open E tuning. I was unconventional. I looked good to them.
Still do.
That's a big one.
And
That's a big one.
And also, I think they saw that they could just mold me into whatever they wanted.
Okay.
They could just tell me what exactly to do.
Well, and you were happy to do that.
And I was happy to do it. I was a willing slave. Yes, you know.
They
and
liked slaves, I think.
Yes, I think so. I think
Who
a
doesn't?
few people like slaves.
But, well, I really don't like slaves, but that was another
No.
conversation.
But
Because they're
anyway-
too easy to come by.
But anyway, I think they were very sure that they would pick someone they could get to do what they wanted
Well, and also,
to
look,
do.
many people feel they're very good friends with you because we do feel that whatever we say to you is in confidence. And, like, I know that you have a new book coming out, and God knows what you're going to tell in there, but I cannot wait because I'm sure it's going to be absolutely humorous. So tell me about first I want to know how you jumped from the gun club, the Cramps, to doing your own thing, and then I want to update it to the book that you've been working on.
Okay. Yeah, so after the Cramps, and then I went back to the gun club, and we moved to Europe. We moved to London, and we had our London version of the gun club with
I think we
Robert
played
Murray.
together.
Yes, we did.
I think I opened
All
for the
right.
gun club.
Yes,
and I think
I
Jeffrey played saxophone on
Yes,
whatever
that was.
I don't remember
it
the
was,
role.
it was in upstate New York somewhere.
Buffalo.
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 At the
Your
home
university.
turf.
At the
Okay.
university.
How did we know that at exactly the same time?
Because I remember that very night.
Jeffrey was a disaster. by the way.
Jeffrey was going through a phase of his William Burroughs worship, and he decided he wanted to be a bisexual.
So he invited me to,
So he invited you to play. So no.
knowing I'm a non-binary, gender fluid, whatever you want to call it, because there is no
Yes,
title for it.
Yeah.
So how did that play out?
But anyway, so what he did was he said he was going to buy some drugs from someone he thought he was going to
So everything was contrived. I'm a bisexual, now I'm doing drugs.
Yeah.
Somebody
And
he doesn't know.
And he took them to our van where he got out his bag and got
what?
with money.
He
And
took
then
the drug dealer that he didn't
to
know.
our van, and then after the show, we came back.
And,
No equipment.
well, that was a Jeffrey move if ever
Early
there
tour
was.
experiences.
Yes.
Well, I mean, Jeffrey was kind of a fuck up.
Well,
of the
Jeffrey-
highest order.
Jeffrey was a genius.
That is Jeffrey Lee Pierce.
Well,
but he was a
you
fucked
can
up
be both.
genius.
You can be
Yeah.
Well, usually.
He had no.
Not always.
He didn't have any living skills at all. He had no
And he made a
survival
lot of
skills.
people- he made a
practical
lot of-
functioning skills, basically.
made
Yeah.
a lot of people mad because he was nasty.
He was a narcissist.
Of the worst order.
And selfish.
Yes. All right.
and
So
selfish.
let's go beyond him because
But
we
you
know
know,
that
but lovely guy also.
when he woke up in the morning.
Yes, before
Well,
the first drink.
this is the tolerance that you're kind of and
Well, that's exactly. Tim.
I'm thinking about with touring, we all tour. I always think the number one thing to be in a successful band is the diplomacy. It's so intimate. You're so just close physically and all this.
Well, and Tim
personalities.
Dahl has seen how
so-
tolerant I am.
Well, tolerance is
And
Yeah.
Kid
way it
is
can be.
extremely tolerant.
Yeah.
And this is another thing that brings us together. It's like
well,
people
yeah.
would not think I was tolerant. I am extremely tolerant
Well, and that's
until
the-
I cut your head
The
off.
thread
Yeah.
I was talking about the two of you
Likewise.
being relaxed right now as I'm watching the rest of the country freak out because even with my own allies, I see how intolerant they are to just anyone that's just a little different than they are.
Uh-huh.
And clearly, the two of you are not like
We're
that
very
at all. I
we're
mean,
very comfortable in our
Well,
skins.
I said that. Can I say the F word?
So you can say whatever you want. What, friends?
Yeah. No, because I always think that I've done whatever the fuck I've wanted. My
And
whole
hello.
life.
And hello.
You know,
And as we all have.
and I've made a living at it, and I've started with very little very little experience, no experience.
No, but I mean, talent is not
till
necessarily
you make it.
experience.
Fake it till you
It's not. Yeah.
This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl and our special guest, Kid Congo Powers. We're talking about tolerance, which is something people would not know that I have. And of course, you've had to have it working with the maniacs that you have
Yeah.
worked with. So after working with these, especially Jeffrey Lee Pierce, whose trajectory of madness is well documented, as well as the beauty of the songs he wrote.
Yeah.
And again, coming full circle back to Cypress Grove, doing these tribute albums, which
Yeah.
many people were on. It's then when did you decide, okay, it's time to do my own stuff?
It was after actually. Then I was in Nick Cave and the Bad
Cave's man.
Seeds for a little bit.
Forgot all about that
I was
because.
going to follow that, but and I read.
Oh, I'm so
That was
sorry.
in Berlin that you.
Yeah, I was living in London with the Gun Club.
Did you replace
You were,
Blixa?
the Gun Club had
moved to London?
moved to London, and that was a reformation of the Gun Club at that point because that was.
Yeah. We had a breakup of the L.A. Gun Club.
Okay.
And then there was I did my own band, the Fur Bible.
That was your first foray?
Yes, that was my first
Was
foray.
Patricia Bagg in that?
Yes,
Patricia Morrison?
Patricia Bagg and Murray Mitchell.
One of my ex-lovers, by the
Yeah.
way. It must
My
have been a
ex-guitar player.
disaster.
And it was very short-lived. One
I don't
EP
blame you.
Only very unfocused, and actually up to then, I thought it was the only kind of stain on my record.
You've had other stains since.
Yes, no, I haven't.
Oh, you had one
Nice.
stain. One stain.
But you know what? In hindsight, it was great.
Okay. It's funny how that works sometimes.
That is funny. Record produced by J.D. Thurwell.
Hello.
By Clint Ruin. I
Coming
think.
soon to a podcast near you.
Yes.
All right. All right, so for Bible, and then how did you get inducted into, and did you replace Blixa Bargeld? No. Before Blixa Bargeld?
I played with Blixa Bargeld.
Oh my God, what
What
happened?
a nightmare.
You were in the band for a while.
Something else we share. Thinking that Blixa Bargeld is a fucking asshole. An untalented parasite, a German insect. Sorry.
Well,
but I'm
I
not.
don't share that.
Well, you said he's an asshole.
Yes. Well, that doesn't mean I dislike him.
You joined.
My best friends are assholes. I heard this say.
My asshole is my best friend.
Did not see it.
So all right, how you were suckered
Right,
in?
anyway.
Wait. So what era of the Bad Seeds were you in?
I replaced Barry Adamson. What happened was Barry
A
Adamson
schizophrenic,
left.
paranoid, amazing bass player who was in the band Magazine and who also did a recording with Cypress Grove and myself.
Yes.
Carry on.
Yes, he was leaving the band, and Mick Harvey was moving over to bass, and he said, "We need a second guitar player."
Because Blixa Bargeld cannot play the guitar.
Well, they
at all.
needed someone, yes. And then
Fill in the blankety blanks.
he. So I was going to go just do a tour for the Your Funeral, My Trial record.
good album.
Amazing album.
Album
so
or
I,
EP?
So I just thought I was going to go on
Right.
tour for a month doing this.
And then 8 years later.
Yeah. Like 3 years.
So you
later.
did that twice with the Gun Club. Another band, established band, came in and
Comes in, goes
and
out,
you're
comes
like,
in, goes out.
Out of here.
Yeah.
Coming back. How was it working with?
Opportunist.
How was it working with Nick Cave?
Nick was great. I mean, that was a really.
Was he sober at the time? I mean, straight.
No.
I mean, so he was still on drugs.
Yeah, we all were.
He was. What were you on?
Well, I was drinking a lot.
What was he on?
Probably heroin, speed, whatever people.
By the
in
way,
Berlin
I mean,
were doing.
by the way, I will admit this. I did have to save him from ODing 3 times, and on the 4th, and I said, you know what?
Really?
That's it, my friend. I'm not
yeah.
saving you
What do you
again.
mean?
3 times,
How do you?
Well,
say it?
because
Yeah.
he OD'd in front of me, and I had to like CPR him back to life.
CPR, yeah, hit him,
Horrible,
slap him.
hideous, no, absolutely outrageous. But look, one thing about drugs, some people use them for inspiration and they can get away with it. Other people have used them for whatever reasons, but I have to say, it did not diminish his artistic output in the early years.
Not in
Because if
earlier,
we
yeah.
think about what he did, from the birthday party to the early Bad Seeds, and the writing he did is pretty monumental.
Yeah.
It's when he began those awful ballads that went on for 20 years that I became very
drugs work until they
disinterested.
don't, right?
And he became a Christian. Actually, when he got off drugs, he really started to suck. That's just my opinion. So we were all on drugs then. Well, what's interesting to me is in that period of Bad Seeds or New York, so what
Yeah.
years are we talking?
We're talking 86, 87.
All right. So what's interesting is since I was never a heroin addict or a junkie, I was ostracized not only from the English contingents, but the New York contingents because I could not be trusted because I wasn't a fucking junkie. Are ya shitting me?
Really?
You understand what I'm
Is
saying?
that did anyone ever directly say that?
Well, I could feel their suspicion.
Well, I mean, isn't that? I mean,
Know
I feel
why?
like-
Because you would call people out on it and that you would bum their trip.
Because they were boring as
Yeah.
hell.
They're
Yeah.
taking naps, right?
I mean, look, narcolepsy. Look, I want to go up, not down.
Yeah. They
I am up.
well, junkies don't want anyone to say anything.
Well, and you know what? I didn't want to save a junkie's life either, but I did, and I guess what? Nothing more need be said. Let's talk about your solo career, Kid Congo Powers.
Okay.
Lydia and Spin. Tim Dahl, Lydia launched Kid Congo Powers.
I moved away.
I don't blame you.
And
After 8 years with...
And I came back to the Grand USA.
Back to LA?
Yeah. Because we left because we were...
What year is this then? Late 80s?
90s.
89, 90, yeah.
But weren't you with Nick Cave until
right before the Berlin Wall came down. So 89.
Which, by the way, speaking about the Berlin Wall, did you know that Teenage Jesus was spray painted in large letters
I
by
remember
somebody
that.
I do not know?
Yes, I know.
Who did that? What a joke. Anyway.
So then I moved back to New York, ended up back in New York, and did a few other projects, Knoxville Girls with Bob Burt.
All right.
And
Bob Burt coming soon to a podcast near you.
yes, very soon. And and
Sooner than
also,
you.
and then what I was doing, you remember Tonic, the
club.
the club Tonic, the artist run, and they gave me a
New York City.
month of Sundays to
And what years?
to make shows.
But that was
I
later,
hate the word
though, right?
curate, but for shows I don't. For rock shows, I like. But anyway, I had to pick acts for a month, and it was December. So around Christmas, I couldn't get anyone.
Tough, yeah.
I couldn't get anyone to do it. So I said, I guess I have to do something.
Excellent.
There you go.
And that was my first solo record.
Need breeds necessity.
Yes,
breeds
the mother
creativity.
invention. Yes,
Better than the mothers of invention.
freak out.
In a moon age daydream. Oh, yeah.
Yes. So that was just the start of it, and I went through many
Configurations.
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 Well, I was a guitar player. I wasn't
Were
the
you?
singer.
So-called. Like I was
I
so-called.
will ask you. Yes,
Oh, we were
I'll
both
ask you
so-called.
the same question.
I'm not a guitar player anyway.
So until I hit a certain thing, which was the current band I have now, who've been playing with me for 12 years.
But also maybe a certain security in the knowledge of what your presence was on stage.
Yes, it takes a while. That's the thing, is that when you come from the Gun Club, the Cramps and Nick Cave,
And you're just. I mean, I
expected
hate to say you're just the guitar player, but
yeah, you are.
You
just
are
the-
just.
You are just the guitar
But
player.
kid. So recently,
Who wants to hear the Bill Wyman solo album?
Well, it's funny you say that. So recently, I've done Japan and South America solo as a bass player.
Yeah.
And there's a point where you have X amount of shows under your belt, and you're like, well, why the fuck can't I do a solo thing? And
Absolutely.
And you have that experience.
Yeah.
So what do you have to fucking lose? At that
Well, and
point?
look, I've been doing solo shows from '82, spoken
Yeah.
word, and various other things. So I was always aware that actually that was the prime focus or the prime intensity of what I was doing, because that was the ultimate configuration of my essence.
Yes, it's like
And so you
boiling it
had
down.
already this personality, this essence, this style. So it only made sense that, hey, motherfucker, get me to the microphone.
Well, there's
me.
also a thread with you, which is, you started where you couldn't play the guitar, but you seem to consistently challenge yourself.
Yes.
As you keep on going.
Yeah,
And you don't wanna get stale.
I am Aries the Ram. I do not stop. It might take a long time, but I'm going to ram my way.
It through,
Ram
baby.
it right
This
in.
is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia launched Tim Dahl and Kid Congo Powers. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia launched Tim Dahl and our special guest Kid Congo Powers. I'm going to ask a personal question now.
Okay.
When did you decide to come out as gay?
I never came out.
Are you out? I mean, no, and this is a question I'm only asking because I can't define, and I refuse to define what my sexuality or gender is. So, I mean, do you define yours?
I am a gay man, yes.
So am I. Although I hate to
And I'm a lot of
Specifically, what are you?
faggot truck driver.
Faggot truck driver.
I say that with say it with the highest respect. That's
Yeah,
one
of
part
course.
that's one part of my personality. There's many party girls inside this faggoty body.
Exactly.
Oh, you have many party girls inside you too?
I do, yes, yeah.
I've seen you in your wig hat.
I was brought up by all women. So I had a father But the women
we
were
all
dominant.
as they should be.
Yes.
Now,
And so that's why I have a great respect for women. And I think this is another thing, Lydia. I think why we get along. I think
I'm the
you find this
Uber
in me.
mother, the colleague.
Yes.
I find your feminine side.
Yes.
Well, you may be a hand masseuse, but honey, if I massage you, well, there's no telling where that could end up. Now, let's just get back to the basics
We
here.
had our chances.
Hey, we're not dead yet.
That's true.
But it would be like fucking my brother.
That's true.
My brother from a different mother and father.
Wow.
You know, I'm blacker than you, so I mean, you're brown. All right, let's get back to the
brown.
basics. You are?
Brown and I got the
I'm black.
brown. I got the brown eye.
You got the brown eye. I'm black and round. Now, you then went into your solo career, of which there was the Fur Bible to begin with, and then you had the Pink Monkey Birds. Was there something in between those?
Well, between that, yeah, there was a group called Congo Norvell.
With
Sally
Sally Norvell,
Norvell.
which was very much like a Julie Cruz, David Lynch kind of thing.
we kind
Very
of
sexy noir.
Yeah, we came in the noir,
Atmosphere.
The noir atmosphere. The Cocktail Nation took us under
You
their
were
wing.
actually pre-Cocktail
But
Nation.
we were pre that, yeah.
One of the starters of the
and
Cocktail
far more
Nation.
dramatic than they would, and far darker than they were. And we were actually a response to the AIDS crisis because I met Sally quite literally at the deathbed of a friend of ours who was with AIDS, a female, a friend
One
of
of
ours.
the few females that actually died of AIDS in that
Sarah
period.
Lee. And so we did a benefit, and then we did a benefit for Joseph Fleury, the manager of the Mumps. And that kind of spurned our whole. We decided to continue on, but we were a reaction to the AIDS crisis and making.
It was
music
a very sexy band. I mean, it was
that
very
making music that was not. It was angry, but not the angry music. It was
Right.
the beautiful music for solace.
very Julie Cruz,
Yeah.
very David Lynch.
Yeah.
How long did that Congo Norvell last?
Some years, yeah.
How many did you release? Some albums?
We released 3 albums. Well, 1 EP and 2 LPs. Yeah.
Very, very beautiful stuff. So okay, that had its lifetime, and then
And then I went on to Knoxville Girls.
with Bob Bird,
Bob
which was
Bird,
kind of more
Cherry
rock
Teal.
and roll.
Oh, very rock and roll. Yeah. Like, as we called ourselves, country no wave.
As I like to say,
I didn't call myself.
country, no
Yeah.
wife.
And then,
But then again, you had to get back to your own self. your own
Yeah, and
stuff.
I did a brief thing with electronic German Con, yes, and we had we preceded the Electroclash.
Proceeded, got in,
phase
got out.
and got out.
Thank
yes,
God.
but that was a short-lived
goddess.
thing. But then the
That
thing
was some
came.
interesting stuff as well.
Yeah, of
but
course.
then it's like, excuse me, here I am.
Yes, and then I had to just go on my own. Like I told you, I was left without what else to do, and so
Had to do you.
had to do me, and I had to be the main songwriter, and I had to be, I collaborated with whatever musicians I was with, but I had to be the focal point
Did
and
that
the
become
visionary.
Pink Monkey Birds?
Yeah,
Which is kind of like glam, humorous, sexy, a bit of almost Cubano in some places.
sometimes.
Very strange kind of juxtaposition of various styles,
Yeah.
which made it quite interesting, actually.
Yeah.
And you became the front man in kind of a tradition, without being that over the top, of Screamy Jay Hawkins, actually.
Yes, it's become more.
I mean, I love.
one
Oh,
of
I know why
my
I love
greatest-
saying that,
one-
but I do.
one-
One of your greatest inspirations is Constipation Blues by
Exactly.
Screamy Jay Hawkins, Constipation Blues.
Yeah. But
I
yeah.
put a spell on you.
But I will
One of the
tell you,
best versions.
this is another thing I owe to Lux and Ivy, because I went and saw them on their last tour. I hadn't spoke to them in 12, 15 years.
Because if you're not with them, you don't speak to them.
Yeah,
That's how they
but
work.
somehow they knew I was in New York and they invited me to their
Nice.
show. And I just saw them on stage and I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is incredible. Like, I was like, it's the same 3 chords. It's,
Same songs.
It's everything.
Same outfits.
But it's like outer space and heaven, and out of this world. Then I thought, oh, it's just because it's just them. I was like,
so that was like, no, it's just going to be me now.
that's what I said. I said, and I'm part of this.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I know how to tap into this. And why have I not been tapping into this?
Well, and also because you are tapping into kind of this cosmic, weird rock, but also esoteric, musical, but yet still traditional kind of music.
Yeah.
So how do you then formulate this into something unique, which is what you did with the Pink Monkey Birds?
Yeah.
And then your next project's also so.
You just let it fly.
And you also, you're kind of pimp baby daddy personality came out in that. None of your Latino, suave pimpe, which nobody else is really doing, especially not from an alt perspective.
Yeah, I'm just being myself.
There's nobody there doing that.
Does it ever work when you're not yourself? I mean, you're just being yourself. She's being herself. I mean, when people are just contrived, they're not. Being authentic and being yourself seems to be always be the winning formula. Usually, if you.
But can you get there?
Well, not many people. Not many people are brave enough to.
Yes,
is my point.
you have to be brave enough to.
Well, you have to be brave enough to get to yourself, and then you have to realize if you are truly unique, you are going to be still in the minority, and you are going to be old forever.
Well, that's a different point.
And you are going to be subterranean. This isn't even. We're not even underground. We're subterranean.
I will tell you. You once said something to me.
Tell me, my friend.
And you said, I said, how do you keep doing all of this? Blah, 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 blah. Like, you're so good at it. And I said, I'm so not good at it at the time. Okay, this was this was years ago.
Must have been 12
years ago. And maybe when I was starting my solo stuff. And you said, because I know my place within my culture. And I have taken that to heart.
Oh, that's sweet.
So much. Well, look.
And it set me off on the right trajectory.
Well, that's also an insight to Lydia's artist mind, which is being able to see abstraction. It's like the art and the music I like is the danger point when it's willing to fall on its face, rather than someone who can take the template and work out all the permutations and make it perfect 30 years later. It's less interesting to me personally. And so maybe she saw something in you, even though you thought maybe you couldn't play at the time. You were already projecting.
Well, again, it's back to style and vision.
Style and vision.
And if you don't have a vision, don't give it a sound. That's what I always say. But I knew from the age of 12 that I had a voice describing something that had not been described from this perspective, that had to be. And so did you. Yeah. And you did have. And whatever, it's hard to categorize what you are or what you have presented the same way it is to describe what I've done and presented, because we do occupy this unique ultra zone, subterranean dimension that is expressing certain things on a level that has not been expressed by other people before. That is, again, where this circle comes full circle. Now, let's talk about your book for a minute, because you have a book that actually is being edited by Chris Campion, who's been on one of our previous podcasts, a good friend of mine for many years. And so I'm sure it's going to be hilarious.
Yes.
I think your memory is pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah.
And you have a vast array of just tales to tell.
Yes. Well, it goes from childhood to, adulthood. Or whatever that is. I'm still figuring it out.
Well, exactly.
But yeah, it's a lot of tales. It's a journey in my mind and where I'm going through. It's not a story about a bunch of other people.
Right.
It's about
me. Other people are involved.
There's a lot of people involved.
But it's your journey. And do you feel while writing this? Because, for instance, when I write any of my books, they're always different. When I wrote Paradoxia, I wrote it backwards. Yeah. And I just thought of it as it's a memoir, it's not a novel. Yeah. And I'm just trying to describe certain incidences that have been very impacting to me.
Well, that's what you have to choose. Yeah, the moments, you have said that to me too. So your words have been meant.
A big thanks.
A mentor.
Thanks to me. Thank you very much. I'd like to pat myself on the back.
You were a mentor, like El Duce from The Mentors.
Oh. Excuse me, who I threatened to beat up many a time, but then Courtney Love ultimately killed. But that's another story.
So it's a tell some, not tell all. Is basically what you're saying.
What?
How could we tell
How
all?
you could tell all? Who has the time? Who has a lifetime?
Who has the pages?
That's always a crappy marketing thing with these things, like tell all.
Well, look, when people read Paradoxia, they're like, "Is it all true?" I'm like, "You don't have any idea what I left out because I cannot remember it."
Well, yeah. It is what is important to you,
exactly,
and what impacted you, and that's what's in my book. And
The
so,
title of which might be tentatively called "Get a Grip." I mean, I'm just suggesting
yes,
that. I'm
that's
just saying.
a very good suggestion.
Well, anyway, I think we've had quite a grip on Kid Congo Powers.
Yes.
I'm Lydia Lunge with Tim Dahl. This has been the Lydian Spin, and thank you, my brother.
Thank you both.
Thank you. And you're out to DJ now.
Yeah.
right.
I got a lot of records.
You're bringing the actual LPs.
He's a
LPs, I play 45s and some LPs.
Okay, I just didn't know.
He's a professional.
I didn't know Night of Joy even had. Do you bring your own turntables?
They said they're going to have them.
All right.
hope
all
so.
right, I didn't know that.
Anyway.
And if they don't, get my
This will
iPhone
be edited out.
out.
It doesn't matter.